So J.K. Rowling, you know what I've noticed, Mary, is that a lot of people are using the law to their advantage these days. And I do think that her recent threat against that gentleman on Twitter plays a role in just how quickly the BBC is pulling back on these claims that they keep publishing in their various BBC broadcasts. So it says, BBC apologizes to J.K. Rowling for second time this month after she was accused of transphobia.
There was this trans writer and broadcaster personality named Carrie Marshall who said this about J.K. Rowling, that her video game Hogwarts Legacy, which she, by the way, had nothing to do with, is only making royalties off of it, is funding the anti-trans movement and having a measurable effect on trans people's lives and potentially safety too.
They never list stats. They just make claims.
Why so many trans people are concerned about the game. They say measurable effect here.
Measured how?
Tell me.
Exactly.
Tell me what the measurable effects are. Don't just throw that out there. Back it up. I want to see. And then what they do always is bring up, you know, the fact that trans people are murdered at higher rates, which is true. But we're not talking about like the real reasons for that. It's not a video game. It's not because people are playing a video game with wizards in it. Obviously. And if you are suggesting that even implicitly, you don't actually take the issue seriously. And you don't actually have compassion for the people you're talking about and claiming to defend. Like, I'm not going to get into the real reasons that you could say like trans people are murdered at higher rates. They are, but like those reasons have nothing to do with J.K. Rowling.
No, nor this video game. Nor this video game. It's also funny how normie, like how like Harry Potter is normie gold. It is. Like, there's a YouTuber that I follow named Sheena Melwani. She's the ultimate normie. She's a singer. She got famous doing this series of videos called Interrupted, where she'd perform songs on her piano while her husband would just interrupt and insult the song. And she's a mom. She's got 2 kids. They do tons of just, you know, normie content. And recently, they were like at Universal Studios or whatever, and she's talking about like how much she loves she's like, I swear, we didn't spend all our time at Wizarding World, and all I could think about was like, look, I live in the same world she does. If not, she's probably more internet connected because she's an influencer, right? She's got 2 million followers on Instagram and a very, very successful, I think 1 million followers on YouTube. So she has to know that this stuff at least exists in some way, shape, or form, but it doesn't stop them from talking about it. It's like you have to kind of work in this area of the internet for this to be as insane as it is, right? Like, I was like looking through the comments, I'm like, please don't let there be like weird comments on like her family vacation, like people think, why would you go to Harry Potter? Like, you're a bad person for going to do that. But there were no comments like that, at least not the ones that I saw. It's so weird how like it's almost like where you choose to spend your time online ends up dictating your like what the world you're going to live in is. And we're in a world right now where Harry Potter, just the video game and the author are evil, but Universal Studios for some reason isn't. Back to school, like, does a kid carrying like a Harry Potter binder into class, is he transphobic? Is he causing problems for an entire community of people? It makes no sense. There are no rules, and like you said, when they don't even provide statistics or a viable reason as to why the numbers they might give correlates to her being loosely connected to a video game that she didn't write, like, it doesn't make any sense. And it's not supposed to make sense. It's just supposed to bring chaos.
Do they think that every dollar in J.K. Rowling's bank accounts multiple is, you know, assigned and dedicated to some anti-trans movement?
Yes, because they're not smart.
Like, she spends money on other things.
Yeah.
Like, you know, clothes and vacations.
She like goes and finds clothes.
Real estate.
Like, when she buys clothes, she's like, no trans person made this, right? Okay, good. I'm just making sure.
I think J.K. Rowling probably, you know, uses her money in like a capitalist sense to support more companies that openly support trans people than not.
Yeah, it's not like she's going around buying all the trans medicine.
The most credible claim you could make is that she runs this women's shelter in Scotland that only accepts biological females in their clinic.
Yeah.
Absurd.
That's it. But that doesn't actually victimize anybody because there are other shelters that accept both trans and cis women, which I don't even like the term.
What does that even mean, cis?
Like, it literally just means not
Normal.
trans, but it's like one of
word.
these Orwellian terms that they've like forced on us to use, and I resent that.
I saw like a post the other day that was like really creepy about how it was basically like a prophetic like worshiping of they them of like gender non-specific pronouns. It was like they them doesn't hurt anyone. They them is inclusive.
That's creepy.
It was like this long, and it was done in the vein of like professing love.
Or someone like
it was so
in the corner of an
weird,
insane
dude.
asylum, like pulling their hair out
Right.
and like just like rocking back and forth and
That's
you know
what I
saying their
picture.
mantra to themselves.
Remember Super Straight? Remember when Super Straight was a thing?
Super
yeah.
straight.
Yeah.
That was a good meme, actually.
Yeah.
Once again, proving that the right is the only side that can meme.
Yes.
Because they were just so pressed about it and had nothing alternative, like anything funny to say in response.
Is it weird
It's
that
nothing.
that the left used to be able to do comedy, but can't meme? Like you think?
I mean,
those same,
were they able to do comedy?
Yes,
I think
they were.
They were only like good at it in terms of like being relatable in other ways.
I
you
mean,
know? By being apolitical.
I can.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm saying, but those people would still be what you would generally consider. Like Jim Carrey is a socialist. Like, but I still love Liar Liar and Ace Ventura and all of the Jim Carrey movies, right?
like what
Yeah.
made him want to,
back in
be so outspoken?
I mean, he grew up poor and talked about how like government assistance is like basically what kept his family going when he was younger. So that was important to him. So, but
Okay.
it is weird
Therefore,
how
socialism. I mean, I'm not connecting.
well, he's from
the
Canada.
dots,
He's from
but-
Canada, so he's
Sure.
talking about it mostly.
So go
in-
back to Canada
Yeah.
and never step foot in this country again.
He's talking about it mostly in the terms of medicine.
George Carlin was pretty liberal. He was hilarious.
Yes.
But he was very much like free speech and anti-government.
He would be heterodox, I think, if
Yeah.
anything. Like like, you know, it's like his comparison when he talks about how you don't need a formal conspiracy to make for people to take over the world is incredibly one of the most like concise ways of explaining how he talks about how interests converge. He goes, they don't need to sit in a table, sit around in a circle and have a meeting. They go to the same country clubs. They're on the same boards of directors. Interests converge naturally to these people. And his ability to explain that in a concise way is shocking. Like, and that was when he was being told, there is no conspiracy to steal elections. A guy says that to him, and he goes, there used to be 7 oil companies. There's now 2. He goes, there's 2 political parties. There's the illusion of choice in America. So he was as much a political commentator as he was a comedian.
Yeah.
Like, I remember somebody pushing back on me when he talked about the idea about political correctness is just fascism it's just fascism masquerading as manners. And somebody wrote me this really long explanation. It's not fascism because it's not a threat of violence. And I'm like,
Dude, Carlin broke that down perfectly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Are
But
there
yeah.
any people like that today left?
What do you like as a 1-to-1 comparison of him? I
Maybe
don't
not
think so.
1-to-1,
But
but
In the ballpark?
there are comedians that do good work today. I mean, I think Ryan Long is doing great work at finding a middle ground between when he does his one about him being objectified at the gym is something anyone can find funny. Also, I would like to say that the gym community has come through hard in making fun of those people. Because there are infinite skits of hot women and men at the gym now where the woman's pretending she's standing in front of a camera and she's sticking her butt out and doing this, and the guy's lifting weights next to her and he's getting a crick in his neck because he can't he has to they're all in on it. So it's the people in the community understand the ridiculousness of that. So that's good.
It was one of the most extreme examples.
Social media is really the only place where you can go to now for heterodox or just humor that doesn't need to be political, right?
Not even really, because imagine what Twitter would be like or YouTube would be like without the need to self-censor.
Yeah.
We would be unstoppable, actually. They just have to put limits on that and like our humanity, honestly.
I like the sillier humor. Like I like the ones of the guy where he's like knocking a cup off my table at 3 a.m. and it goes flying around the house and like the cup goes and it like knocks over like a table. Like it goes knocks stuff off the table.
There's a place for that, but there also has to be a place for humor that pushes more buttons than that, you know? And it's just not allowed now because it's considered unladylike, I suppose. It's like everyone is in finishing school on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube.
I mean, the people that do it
getting taught etiquette by these tyrants
on the internet. Yep.
Yeah.
So the part that annoys me about the J.K. Rowling thing, it's the constant assertion that something is true without ever providing any type of statistical evidence to it and doing it in the most hyperbolic way that takes advantage the good-natured personality of most people who are just going to assume that what you're saying is true and say, oh my God.
And sympathize when you claim to have a plight.
Yeah.
Which means you're going to like burn in the lowest circle of hell.
Yeah, for doing that.
To spend goodwill like that because it's a finite resource, trust me.
And like I consider myself part of that group, like that's like who's aware of it, but like there's a lot of people who want to give you the benefit of the doubt that you're taking advantage of.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're not aware. Thoughts?
My best friend is exactly that person.
That gets taken advantage of because
he doesn't realize it.
Well, I mean, and you got to feel bad for them, but you also you can't lead a horse to like you can't make them understand that their goodwill is being weaponized against them, and that also J.K. Rowling did the thing where she talked about how she's not worried about her legacy, which is based. Like she doesn't care.
You seem to think that it was kind of presumptuous that she would even opine on like her legacy, what her legacy might be after
I think that all of the evidence to the contrary proves that she's more concerned about issues in the here and now. Otherwise, if she was worried about her legacy, she wouldn't be talking about this stuff.
Okay. So this is from a new podcast called The Witch Trials of J.K. Rowling. It seems to be a limited series just talking about her life. Should we play it or would that be copyrighted?
I think it'd be copyrighted.
Oh, okay.
But the general idea...
She was just like, I don't care about the legacy I might leave behind to some people who think I'm, you know, the monster or like the witch that they need to hunt down because like I'll be dead. I'm concerned with the living and like what's going on in the here and now. And
I love it.
That makes sense.
More people these days are worried about, maybe they're not worried about their legacy, but they're definitely worried about their image. Or
their
how
brand.
People or their
That's
brand.
That's what the South Park episode was about. Is like we're teaching kids now that they need to manage their brand on digital platforms before they're even adults.
And that's just an outcome that's going to be here because now with social media being a monetizable way of making a living.
Unfortunately, it's true.
And being part of kids' lives so early, they have to start. It's funny too because it's not like the idea of being told to watch what you do online, what you post online, didn't go back to like when we were in school. Right. Like that stuff was said to me when I was in school. Like, be careful what you post online. But then it was because the college admissions board is going to look at it, or because employers are going to look at it. Now it's morphed into an entirely different animal.
Yeah, now not posting is like you're not doing good enough.
Yeah.
The college build your resume thing is hilarious because, like, I'm sorry, like, you'll admit David Hogg to Harvard because he like writes a Black Lives Matter poem or something.
What was that?
But you won't admit somebody who tweeted like the R word on Twitter in like 2012.
There should also be
I'm so lost about our moral compass as a society.
There's also like there's
I have
a
nothing
shocking
in common with these people.
There's a shocking like refusal to forgive people who do stuff when they're kids. Like
specifically when they're children
teenagers.
On the internet, which is still like we don't put enough credit on this. It is still an incredibly new thing.
There was a guy who did like a Spider-Man. He was making a Spider-Man fan film. He was the lead actor in a Spider-Man fan film, and he got caught. Like old DMs of his came out where he said the N-word when he was like 15, and they canceled the movie. People lost their jobs because this dude said some edgy stuff that he probably shouldn't have said. He was a kid.
Okay, but these screenshots come from somebody who
it works.
Crisis party.
Thank you. These these screenshots presumably come from like somebody who used to be his friend, right?
Yeah.
So this is a betrayal of trust, but you're the one who's supposed to say sorry.
Yes.
Like even the presumption that you would need to be forgiven to me, I find that like way overstepping boundaries.
Yeah, this is a tale of being double-crossed, and who not to hire would be the person who
sent you the screenshots. Exactly. Yeah, like, do you think that you're going to be safe from liability when you just brought in a tattletale snitch?
That's a moral crime.
Dude, there was
some geek, like...
Yeah.
There was a guy who there was like a thing posted the other day where it was like, somebody's like, how do I report somebody with expired tabs? Like, you took a picture of someone's license plate. That's the world we live in now, dude.
People are just not
Everyone's
busy
a whistleblower
enough, dude. I also thought about Clubhouse for this reason, because people were really like into Clubhouse before Twitter Spaces were a thing.
Yeah.
And it's because you don't have a chat log. Like, obviously, it's because you're afraid of people snitching. And the reason that it was invite only is because another thing, like, you don't want it to be open to everyone who could be spying on you and looking for the worst possible way to frame everything you say. It's invite only because it's about like a barrier of trust, right? That you're a trustworthy person. And on Clubhouse, it was a feature that like if anyone in a Clubhouse conversation had blocked someone, they can't listen into the conversation. So if there are like 40 people in there and only one had blocked someone, the blocked person can't listen to the conversation.
Yeah.
Because if you are a tattletale snitch nerd, then you have lost your privileges to be included. It's called a clubhouse for a reason. It's like you are not part of our club because you acted out. You are the snitch at the back of the class.
I don't often, like you talk a lot about shaming. Absolutely.
This is what is needed.
Snitch behavior in a situation like that. I mean, remember, during COVID, they were talking about people were like snitching out their neighbors for having barbecues. Like,
well, my point about Clubhouse was like Taylor Lorenz then.
Oh my God.
She was blocked by somebody in a Clubhouse conversation, used a sock account that she like probably bought the invite link to, used a sock account to record someone she thought said the R word in the conversation, but actually had not said that. Yep. And she was like, oh, I thought that I heard a male voice say it, and I assumed it was this person. I don't know. And then she like privated her Twitter. Like, you are such a socially maladjusted freak. You should go into hiding for the rest of your career over something like that.
I mean, they're just people who never had friends growing up. They never developed any type of actual social structure that required you to be not dependent, but where you had to earn a level of trust amongst a group of friends. Right. People talk a lot about the evils of hazing and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. There was a purpose to those types of activities. It built a level of trust. It's trauma bonding. It's literally trust built through shared humiliation.
To a certain degree.
Yeah.
To a certain degree.
Like, if you played sports, that was a huge part of how you bonded with your teammates. I mean, it also comes down to, the experiences you have.
Like there's
together.
a level between hazing and like Little St. James that we can, there's like a happy medium between
what's Little St.
normal
James?
Hazing and Epstein Island blackmail schemes.
Dude, I'll tell you what.
I feel like a lot of college frats kind of get closer to like, we have blackmail material on you, therefore you owe us loyalty territory. Oh, yeah. But yeah, like hazing, that's like normal social behavior that's somehow lost on us now.
It's funny. I've been watching Buffy, and the clip I posted yesterday was from this episode where the swim team is they turn into fish monsters, and it's incredible because it's like but there's a scene at the beginning where basically one of them acts out, and Buffy like tries to like report this dude to the school, and he basically gets away with it scot-free because he's an athlete. And it's kind of refreshing to look at a thing like this from 20 years ago where they don't make it about the fact that he's white. I know this is a weird aside, but it's like, have you ever seen the
little things that keep you going?
Have you ever seen the Belinda Carlisle, the literal music video for what's the song? What's the Belinda Carlisle song? The Total Eclipse of the Heart. And there's do you know what literal versions of music videos where they play the song and a person sings the song in the tune of the song, but it's just they describe what's going on in the music video. And there's this scene in there where like a bunch of preppy guys are like toasting, and they say that in the music video. There's a bunch of preppy guys make a toast, and they say like they just basically call them douchebags. I miss the days where you just called those people douchebags and you didn't make it about race or sex. Right? It was just the fact that they were bad people. Like anybody can be a douchebag. Yeah. Anybody. Like there is no race or gender has a monopoly on douchebaggery. Anybody can do that. It's a bit of an aside, but it comes into play because we were talking about hazing and stuff like that.
Well, it's the same thing as like mansplaining. Like just being condescending doesn't really know a gender.
I love the meme. It says like mansplaining says it's when you're explaining things to a woman. Mm-hmm. So when a man explains things to a woman, it shows a guy explaining it to a girl. A guy explaining mansplaining to a woman. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.